stage, or third D, is discover. The discover stage is where you seek to understand the assets and needs of your community. In other words, in order to create and implement responsive, relevant, and proactive health programs, you need to know what your community has. For example, assets such as people, knowledge, practices, competencies, experience, funding, infrastructure, and our traditions, and what it needs related to health and wellness. Here are the key steps.
First, review and prepare. One of the first activities is to review your previous health plan, if you had one. If you weren't involved, find out how it went. Consider what worked well and why it worked well. How did the mandatory programs roll out? How about the community-guided programs, sometimes called health promotion programs? Also, what wasn't completed or what changed over the course of the previous plan? Seek to understand the what and the why. It's important to do an analysis of your previous health plan, including the process you followed to create it. This can help guide your work in creating your new health and wellness plan.
Second, collect your data. The next steps of activities are related to what's going on now in your community. What is the health landscape that affects your community? This is done through a community assessment. A community assessment is a process where you engage with your community and stakeholders to recognize and validate the assets of the community and identify the needs of different groups, such as children and parents and elders. It is a valuable and necessary activity in order to effectively identify your priorities. Through this process, you will be able to get an overview of your community assets and clarify the most pressing health and wellness needs, and to engage the community so they are more involved in health and wellness planning. The community assessment is one of the first activities you will do as you develop your health and wellness plan. It provides you valuable data that will help you establish priorities, which leads to your strategic goals and then guides the development of programs and services. As your health and wellness plan guides your organization for several years, it's important that it is based on sound and relevant information. The community assessment provides this solid initial foundation for planning. When considering assets, look at what your community has. For example, culture, traditions, strong people, valuable stories, knowledge, competencies, skills, and experience. You'll also need to collect information on what your community needs. There are many different ways you can collect this information. Some examples are asset mapping, focus groups, community meetings, surveys, interviews, home visits, stories and sharing circles, research results, reviewing data from evaluations and reports, and data from other sources. Think of NIHB, the RHS, or by your province. Make sure you have solid guidelines in place that'll ensure the confidentiality of information where relevant, and that all participants understand what will happen to this data. Third, organize your data. Organizing all the information that you've collected is an important part of the assessment process. These data will relate to both community assets and needs. You don't need to be an expert to translate your data into usable information. You just need to know a few basics. If you wish to go deeper, you can work with a researcher or epidemiologist. Fourth, prepare a draft report. Once the community assessment is complete with both assets and needs collected, you can develop a brief report with results that will be shared with the guiding group, community leadership, and the community members for validation. This brief report will guide the next step in the planning process. The draft report could include the following components: description of the process, a description of the community and its assets, and a summary of the health needs. What's important is that you've collected enough information to help you in your next stage and that the process is transparent.